What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Joy Division, as well as a hilarious Luca, and we're continuing with the Substance compilation provided by Mr. Solo. Thank you again. And the next one in the playlist is She's Lost Control. So it sounds dangerous or untenable, meaning if you have lost control, then there is some process, some dynamic, some situation which you may have been able to affect deliberately, but now is beyond your grasp, or the momentum, the inertia of whatever movement or process or situation it is, however literal and or metaphorical, it is now out of your control. It is now up to processes and external factors that are beyond your grasp. So yeah, it sounds like a dangerous situation. Now it's being referenced in the third person. She's lost control, so it remains to be seen whether this is an omniscient narrator, meaning someone who's not really part of the narrative, or if it is another person who knows this female character. So yeah, it sounds like there's some danger afoot. Let's see what I can catch on a first listen. This is Joy Division. The track is She's Lost Control, and it's included on a compilation of their material called Substance. I knew the end was coming soon. I thought it was going to end like very suddenly, but it did peter out pretty quickly after I had a sort of intuitive expectation that it was going to come to an end. So, yeah, it's a darker tune sonically, like a bit of post punk feel to it, but also, very cyclical, very percussively dense, a lot of slapping and smashing rhythms along the way. The vocals were hard for me to pick up, or rather, the lyrics were hard for me to pick up because the vocals were sort of done with an affected voice, and they were kind of buried under a lot of the rattling sonics above. Certainly, the prevalence of the word again suggests this is itself a cycle, and that this state where she has lost control again is just the latest manifestation of what has been a recurring experience or situation. I do wonder, there was something like, what was it, like, after trying every creative form, or like, I forget exactly what I heard now because I was keying in on the sonics after I heard a couple lines that caught my ear. But yeah, it sounds like, she's tried different things, but she's now in a situation where, again, she's lost control. I do wonder whether that's like psycho-emotionally, which, I don't know if I mentioned it in the intro, but, losing control can mean, snapping, like you go to some, I don't know, psychotic, but some sort of state where you're lashing out or you're intensely manic or otherwise not in your normal emotional condition. So I feel like maybe that's part of it, but definitely the cyclical repetitive aspect of this, not in a bad way, but like I feel like the sonics are maybe in some way expressing the frenetic and cyclical nature of what is being referenced. Nevertheless, I do enjoy, again, this sort of, dark post-punk meets like eclectic dark pop, like somewhere in between. Like it had this definite dark sound to it. I will say the bass line I particularly enjoyed, and there was, some keyboard flourishes in there, but they were almost like, supplementing. Like they weren't like major features, but they were there in some moments. I do enjoy some of those vocal extensions, like at the end of the chorus. I think it would really go low and extend with the final line of the chorus. But as I said, I had a hard time picking up the lyrics because the vocals were very sort of deep and affected, and then ensconced within this larger cyclical percussive rhythm. So either way, a very interesting tune, and again, I'm enjoying hearing, the first few tunes had this really, raw, almost like garage band kind of sound, and people mentioned, that was the phase when they were Warsaw and they were still learning to play their instruments, and I'm aware of Love Will Tear Us Apart, before I started this deep dive, and this didn't sound like that, neither did the early stuff sound like that, so clearly they're still evolving and finding their various grooves and niches, if you will. But yeah, a very interesting and dynamic tune. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.